People think the British royal family is rich because of history.
Palaces, jewels, ancient power passed down through bloodlines.
But that story is comforting and wrong.
Because the real source of royal wealth isn't tradition.
It isn't conquest, and it isn't even ownership.
It's a financial system so carefully designed that most people never realize they're part of it.
A system where the king doesn't truly own his most famous palace, yet is guaranteed funding for life.
And once you see how it works,
you'll never look at Buckingham Palace the same way again.
Buckingham Palace stands at the center of London like a statement carved in stone.
Gold gates, endless rooms, guards who don't blink. It doesn't just look powerful.
It feels permanent. For most people, that image answers every question before it's even asked.
Of course the royal family is loafing.
Of course they own everything we associate with them.
Of course this power is ancient, inherited, unquestionable.
But appearances are doing most of the work here.
Because modern royal wealth isn't built on medieval ownership anymore. It's built on legal design.
And to understand that, we have to forget the fairy tale version of monarchy.
And look at the balance sheet.
For centuries, the British monarch didn't just rule the country.
He owned it.
The land,
The forests,
the rivers,
The coastlines,
Even what lay beneath the sea.
This wasn't symbolic ownership.
it was literal.
revenue from land, rents, minerals, and trade flowed directly to the crown.
The monarch funded the state, not the other way around.
But absolute ownership comes with absolute risk.
By the mid-18th century, that risk caught up with the crown.
Running a modern state was becoming expensive.
Wars, bureaucracy, infrastructure, costs were exploding.
And King George III was drowning in that.
The monarchy wasn't collapsing politically. It was collapsing financially.
In 1760, George III made a decision that still defines Britain today. He approached Parliament with a trade.
He would surrender all profits from the crown estate, an enormous portfolio of land, property, and natural resources,
To the government.
In return, Parliament would do three things:
Cover the costs of running the civil government.
Pay for the monarch's official duties.
and clear his personal debts.
This agreement created the civil list. On paper, it looked like sacrifice. A king giving up his wealth for the stability of the nation.
But in practice, it was a masterstroke.
The crown offloaded financial risk.
And secured guaranteed funding.
This was the moment ownership was converted into entitlement. Today, the Crown Estate is worth tens of billions of pounds.
Prime London real estate,
Vast rural land. And the entire seabed surrounding the United Kingdom. But here's the twist most people miss. The king doesn't own it. He holds it in right of the crown.
That phrase sounds powerful.
But legally, it means almost nothing.
He cannot sell it.
He cannot mortgage it. He cannot keep the profits.
The estate is managed for the nation.
This is the first great illusion of royal wealth. The appearance of ownership without control. For more than 250 years, the civil list funded the monarchy through fixed annual payments. But fixed payments are politically visible. They invite debate. They invite criticism. So in 2012, the system was redesigned. The civil list was replaced by the sovereign grant. Instead of a fixed sum, the monarchy would receive a percentage of crown estate profits. Currently, 25%. No annual vote. No negotiation.
Just a formula.
As crown estate profits rise, royal funding rises automatically.
This wasn't modernization.
It was insulation. Supporters argue this system costs taxpayers nothing. After all, crown estate profits go to the treasury first. But money doesn't have memory. Those profits originate from assets once directly tied to the crown.
now locked into a closed legal loop. The Treasury uses those profits to fund the sovereign grant.
Taxpayers backfill the treasury. It's indirect.
It's quiet.
And it's remarkably effective.
But the system goes deeper.
Because not all royal wealth enters this loop. The Duchy of Lancaster and the Duchy of Cornwall are private estates.
Lancaster funds the monarch.
Cornwall funds the heir.
Together, they generate tens of millions annually.
And unlike the crown estate, their profits go directly to the royal family.
No surrender.
No formula.
No obligation to the public.
Their legal status exists in a gray zone.
Private, when taxes apply.
Public, when criticism applies. Historical, when reform is suggested.
This ambiguity is not a loophole.
It is a feature.
Because the monarchy is no longer an institution that owns wealth.
It is an institution that routes wealth.
Modern power doesn't need possession.
It needs positioning.
Ownership creates liability.
Visibility invites resistance.
So power evolved.
The crown estate is described as belonging to the nation. But the public does not own it.
Parliament does not own it.
The government does not own it.
No one does.
It is held in trust by the crown. For whoever happens to be the crown. Once assets enter this category, they exit democratic reach.
You cannot vote on them. You cannot reclaim them.
You cannot dismantle them without dismantling the legal framework itself.
And that framework runs deeper than property.
In British constitutional theory, the crown is not symbolic.
It is the legal source.
Courts operate in its name. Prosecutions act on its behalf.
Laws derive authority from it.
Even democracy functions through the crown.
This creates a paradox. The people are sovereign,
but only via an institution that is not elected,
not accountable,
and not removable.
This is why reform is so difficult.
You are not challenging a family.
You are challenging the operating system of the state.
And operating systems defend themselves quietly.
The monarch is technically exempt from taxation.
Not because he is a min,
but because the law assumes he cannot tax himself.
Modern monarchs voluntarily pay certain taxes.
But voluntary compliance is not obligation.
It cannot be enforced.
It can be withdrawn.
Flexibility without vulnerability. Inheritance works the same way.
Ordinary wealth fragments over generations.
Taxes, disputes, dilution.
Royal wealth does not.
Assets tied to the crown are not divided,
not taxed,
not contested.
They move intact from one monarch to the next.
This is how wealth survives centuries.
Not by growing rapidly,
but by never breaking apart. The monarchy does not compete with democracy. It parasitizes it.
Governments think in election cycles.
The crown thinks in centuries.
Scandals fade.
Outrage passes.
But legal structures endure. Even anti-monarchist anger targets individuals.
Never mechanisms.
And mechanisms don't apologize.
They don't resign. They continue. Buckingham Palace is not a home.
It is a distraction.
A physical object for emotional arguments to orbit around.
While the real system operates beneath the surface.
Ownership is obsolete.
Guarantees are what matter.
The monarchy is not rich because it has gold.
It is rich because it has permanence.
He optimized it.
He traded volatile ownership for stable entitlement.
Risk for certainty.
Visibility for insulation. That decision wasn't undone.
It was refined.
The monarchy today does not survive on belief.
It survives on design.
And once a system is embedded this deeply into the state, it doesn't need love. It doesn't need justification. Only silence.
Because the most enduring power is not enforced.
It is normalized. And once normalized, it doesn't need defending.